The salvation we're talking about is the salvation, the famous salvation, Mashiach. In other words, this is one of the sources that show us how important it is to not just believe in Mashiach, but to ask for Mashiach, to do things to make it happen sooner, and to be anticipating and looking forward and craving for Mashiach's coming. That's what these words mean. Number 45, we just spoke about it a few days ago. I didn't maybe put down the words on the board, but it reads Kenanos al gabe anak. Anyone remember where we use that term? Nanas means a midget. Anak means a giant. It's like a midget on the shoulders of a giant. Right. Number 46, Nitzutz Mashiach, the spark of Mashiach. What is that? Yeah, very good.
It's like the spark. It's what we need maybe to bring.
The what?
Like the sparks that will accumulate.
That's something else. Those are called the sparks of the world of Tohu. This expression is the spark of Mashiach.
That we are going to bring Mashiach.
Keep going. That we are what?
That doing like step by step, like mitzvot and doing like good things, we all together are going to bring Mashiach.
So,
as we have a little part of God, for example, we are going to bring Mashiach.
Almost there. One of the things we learned was that every one of us has a spark of Mashiach in them. What is it, the spark of Mashiach? It's a certain part of our neshama that is like my personal Mashiach. Which part of the neshama is that?
Moshe.
That's true. It's the Moshe in me. Which part of my neshama is that? The neshama has 5 names. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. You know what Yechida is?
Yeah.
The highest. That's the part of the soul that always remains pure. That's the part of the soul that no matter what a person does, no matter how much they do, welcome back to the cutoff, Chas v'shalom. The Yechida always reigns intact, is always perfectly connected, is always pure. Nothing in the world can take that away. So that spark is called the Mashiach spark in me. And one of the things we learned was that if each one of us brings out the spark of Mashiach within ourselves, the personal spark, together we bring the Mashiach, which is the collective Mashiach, the actual Mashiach. So on a personal level, it means, how do I bring out that spark of Mashiach? Number one is by believing in Mashiach. If I believe in Mashiach, that's really an expression of the spark of Mashiach in me. That gives me the power to believe. Number two, learning about Mashiach. That reveals the spark of Mashiach in me. Getting excited about Mashiach. And one of the things we're going to learn today is about being besimcha in reference with Mashiach. So, yeah.
Mashiach would be someone that already passed away on
Mashiach could be. It could be someone who is alive today in principle, and could be someone who lived before. And both possibilities are okay according to Torah. In general. Number 47, Mashiach ben Yosef. What's that?
I think it's connected to the 48 that Joseph came from the Malchut, from the kingship.
Right. So basically, in Jewish history, generally speaking, there were 2 major kings, 2 major dynasties of kingdom. One is David HaMelech. He was a king. His son was a king. His grandson was a king. Great-grandson was kings. And the other is from the tribe of Yosef. There was one of his children that their descendants also became a king. He was the king of the 10 tribes. And then his children became kings. So there was, for many generations, there were two paths. One was the kingdom of David, one was the kingdom of Yosef. When Mashiach will come, who's going to be the king? Only from David and Melech, not anymore from Yosef. But it says this is something which is not found in Halacha, but it's found in Gemara, it's found in Medrash, and it's a little bit more wrapped in mystery, even more than the general idea of Mashiach, that there's another person who would be considered Mashiach. He's a descendant from Yosef. And he'll not be the one that'll lead us into Eretz Yisrael, but he will sort of also play a role in preparing us for Mashiach ben David. However, there's opinions that say that actually it's the same person. That person has in him a connection to David HaMelech and a connection to Yosef HaTzadik. And it's part of a process. First, what will be revealed in him is the Yosef part, and then later will be the David part. So it's really, if you look in the Rambam that we learned that talks about Mashiach, there's no mention about Mashiach ben Yosef. The only one that's mentioned is there'll be a person, a descendant of King David, and he's the one who's Mashiach. But still good to know that there is such a concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. So what does the word Malchus Beis David mean?
The kingdom of David.
Right, it means the kingdom, not David HaMelech himself, it means the kingdom of his line, of his dynasty. Children, descendants that come from David HaMelech. Number 49, Vigar, yeah.
But the kingship of Yosef wasn't that good. Like it was really bad.
Most of them were wicked. Most of them were not righteous people.
Yeah.
They did Avodah Zarah and they fought. Yeah.
So still, from them, even though they were so wicked.
Right, but don't forget, Yosef was a tzaddik,
Yeah,
and his children were tzaddikim, and so there's still something there. 49. Vigar zev im keves. Right. When Mashiach will come, the wolf and the sheep will live together peacefully. And we know that there's two possibilities with this also. One possibility is that it means literally that those animals, like a wolf that is a predator and kills other animals, when Mashiach comes, even the animals won't be killing other animals. Lions, tigers, wolves, and so on.
So then what the Moshiach means for the Goy?
It means for the whole world, even
Means for the
non-Jews.
whole world.
Yeah. That the whole world will recognize Hashem, and the non-Jews will no longer worship Avodah Zarah, and they will observe their 7 mitzvahs. And they will also be passionate about knowing more about Hashem and everything else. Yeah. In fact, sometimes we don't pay attention to what comes out of our mouth, but every day in davening, when we say Oleinu, that's what it says in Oleinu. That all the Avodah Zarahs will be broken, and all the nations of the world will accept you, and they'll bow to you, and they'll praise you. We say it every day. Because still today, you can meet people, even people that are knowledgeable of Torah, and you ask them what's going to happen with the rest of the world, and they say, oh, they'll just disappear. Which is the exact opposite of what they themselves say every single day. Okay, number 50, Su'udas Mashiach. What's that? What? Very good. So actually there's two things that are called, the term Sudas Mashiach, when we use it, especially in Chabad, is at the end of Pesach, the last day, we make a special meal, and the name of that meal is called Su'udat Mashiach, and we celebrate Mashiach and Geulah. But we also learned, not long ago, that when Mashiach will come, there'll be a big meal, and we'll have, we know the menu, it's going to be fish, it's going to be meat, it's going to be wine. Remember we said the fish is Leviathan, the wine is going to be ancient wine, Yayin HaMeshumah, and the meat is going to be Shor Habar. It's all tremendous, spiritual, great things that are going to happen, but it's going to be manifested through these foods. So it's also a meal. But I think generally when you use the actual term Sudat Mashiach, it's referring to, like Sophie said, Mashiach, the Suda we're going to eat, or we eat the last day Pesach. And who's the one that started this custom was the Baal Shem Tov. 51, Shira Ha'asiris. What does Shira mean? Asiri, 10. Song 10. What does that mean? 10 song. What does that mean?
Like in the Torah, there are 9 songs, and it sounds like
Right. We already had a class after Pesach. That in history, there were 10 major events where they sang songs of praise to Hashem. Like the song they sang when the sea split, the song that Devorah, the prophetess Devorah sang, there's a song that the prophetess Hannah sang. Altogether, there are 9. When Moshiach will come, we'll be singing the 10th song. So when you say the word Shira, Shira is the 10th song, that's what it's referring to.
Oh. Can I ask something?
Yes.
It's very last one. Why did they say about the fish and the meat and wine? Why, like, do we celebrate everything with food?
Everything with food?
I feel like we put like a lot of weight on the food, you know, like a lot of
Emphasis on the food.
yeah, that, yeah.
Oh, it tastes good. This is going to be especially very good taste in wine. And the reason why there's so much emphasis on the food, because really, let's say we just had Shavuot. We had a meal Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night,
No.
Shabbos day. By the end, you just roll off your chair. And by the way, that was easy. Sometimes you have 2 days Yonta before Shabbat. So you have, right, and sometimes after Shabbat, sometimes you have one night in the morning, another night, another night. Right.
With the matzah, the wine.
So normally you would think that the real, true, better way to celebrate a Chag is like Yom Kippur. No eating.
Yes.
Fasting, being in shul the whole day, and so on and so forth. So I can't answer the answer on one question, but basically the general answer is that the whole purpose of creation, believe it or not, is all about this physical planet Earth, this physical world, and it's about elevating this world. And there's something in the physical that's greater than all the spiritual worlds. And by making a bracha and eating the meat and the fish and the drinking the wine and eating food the way Hashem wants us to eat, actually, these are the ultimate things. In other words, it's not, God forbid, the meat itself is amazing. We're talking about the spiritual component that's in food is something which comes from a very high spiritual source. And that's the reason why there's so much emphasis on the food. In general, the idea is that Judaism is not about isolating ourselves, separating ourselves from the physical, but it's about bringing godliness into the physical. And specifically, it has to do with, that's why there are laws. Shabbos, you have to buy new clothes, you have to have nice clothes, you have to have good food. And all these things mean that we want that spirituality should penetrate the physical. And by doing that, we're bringing out the spirituality that's in the physical, and that's the ultimate purpose. When Mashiach comes, we'll be able to see with our eyes what it is that we've accomplished. It's like a bank account. You work, and your boss doesn't give you a check. Now, I'll deposit it in your bank account. Today it's called direct deposit, which means they don't even give it to you. It's safer that we go straight to the bank. So you don't even know what's happening. Then one day you go to the bank and they say, okay, you have $500,000. Whoa, I didn't even realize how much money I have. But you didn't use it until you go to the bank to take out the money. So right now, every time we make a bracha on food, we have a Shabbos meal, a Yom Tov meal, we're elevating the physical in a very special way. But the only thing is we don't benefit from it openly. We don't see the benefit except for gaining weight, right? So we do get bigger in a way, but not when Mashiach comes, we'll see how we got bigger spiritually from eating food. 52, Sefer Torah Shel Mashiach. What's that?
It's the Rebbe Torah.
Which,
That is called the Moshiach Geulah.
why?
This, because the Torah for Mashiach.
Mashiach.
Prison. Yeah,
What?
it's created in prison by the Shapiro
Prison.
brothers.
You said you will be
It's
sure.
a Torah to Mashiach.
Okay. So again, we had a class about this also in the beginning of the year. And there actually are two Torahs in 770. One we call the Rebbe's Torah. There's another one that's called Moshiach Sefer Torah. Let me talk about Moshiach Sefer Torah first. In 1941, the previous Rebbe already then began to talk about the fact that right now, at that time, the Holocaust already began. And he was saying that this is not an ordinary natural occurrence. This is what's going on is going to lead up to redemption ultimately. These are the birth pains of Mashiach. And at that time, he spoke about strengthening our belief in Mashiach. And like always at that time, so many people came out against him, Mashiach, and making fun. But he started it then. And one of the things the previous Rebbe said was to write a Torah scroll, that with this Torah, we're going to greet Mashiach. So they wrote the Torah scroll. This was 1941. And this Torah scroll is the one that we use now in 770. It's called the Sefer Torah of Mashiach. That's why it's called Torah of Mashiach. It was written that with this Torah, we're going to greet Mashiach, which obviously, by writing such a Torah scroll, is instrumental in hastening the coming of Mashiach. There's another Torah, which is a small little Sefer Torah, it's maybe this big, and that's the one which we call the Rebbe's Torah. What is that one? That's the one that's related to the story with the Shapiro brothers. I'll just repeat it briefly for those who are not familiar. And that is that many years ago, when the Haskalah movement, which is the Enlightenment movement, was starting, and they were trying to spread their ideology, which was against, Torah, the people who were fighting them the most were actually Hasidim and the Hasidic leaders. So they were more like what you would call the assimilated Jews. They were close to the people in government. And what they did was they decided the worst thing is that there are Torah books and that educates people with Torah. If we can stop Torah books from being printed, and especially Hasidic books, then they won't have the influence out there against us. So how do you stop it? They went and they filed a false accusation against one of the people. There were two brothers, they had a printing press. Most of the books of Torah were printed through them. They were called the Shapiro brothers. And they filed some false accusation of something they did against the government, and they were arrested. And they were arrested. Their verdict was, it was a very anti-Semitic government, as you know. The verdict was that they would first be given 1,500 lashes, which means be whipped 1,500 times. 1,500 times. And after that, 20 years in jail. And most of the people after the lashes didn't even survive. These people, after 1,500 lashes, they were in hospital for a year. And then they went to jail for another 19 years. There's a famous story with them that when they were walking, they had to walk with their hands behind their back. And one of them, the yarmulke, fell off. Now, how did they work the lashes? You had to walk. There were soldiers on one side, soldiers on the other side, and they were just whipping as you walk by. So to stay alive, you had to go as quick as you can. When his yarmulke fell off, he stopped walking. He wouldn't walk. It was a miracle that the judge went over, stopped them, put on the yarmulke, and he continued. So these were tzaddikim, they were very righteous people. When they were in jail, someone sent them a Torah scroll that they should have in jail. But the truth is, you're not allowed to have a real Torah scroll in jail is not appropriate, because the jails, the conditions were not very clean conditions, and it wasn't appropriate. So what they did was they had, a Torah scroll is made up of many different pieces, and they sew it together, right? There's no parchment that's so long. Each piece of parchment is about this big, and then you sew it together. So if you don't sew it together, it's not a Torah scroll. So they had it separate pieces, and they used it all the years that they were in the jail. And because it's a jail, they made it small. When they went out of jail, they took it with them. It was very precious to them. But now you have to put the sticks on them. Those sticks. So they were children, I think children, not grandchildren, children of a very big tzaddik, whose name was, okay, it'll come back to me in a second. He was in the times of the Moshiach Magid, the Baal Shem Tov, and he once wrote a Torah. And there was a certain wealthy man that he wanted to donate the sticks, but it didn't come on time. So he used other sticks. And then their sticks arrived. So he said that they can't use it now, put it away. But he said that ultimately, these sticks will one day be in the hands of a very big tzaddik. When these brothers went out of jail, they took those sticks and they connected it to the Torah that they had. So now they had the Torah and these two sticks. Who had it? This family had it, their children, children's children. So there was someone in Israel, his name was Shapiro, he's a direct descendant of these brothers, he had it. And there was a Chabad Chassid that asked him to give this as a gift to the Rebbe. He wanted something so precious, a family treasure. But he had a very, very difficult time financially. And this Chassid promised him a large sum of money if he gives this to the Rebbe as a gift, which he did. And if you look in the Rebbe's books of letters, there are letters to this person where the Rebbe is thanking him for the gift. And from that point on, the Rebbe always used this Torah scroll to read Mondays and Thursdays. And this is the Torah scroll the Rebbe used by dancing on Simchas Torah, Pakavot, with this little Torah scroll. So that's the Torah that's called the Rebbe Sefer Torah. And the big one is called Moshiach Sefer Torah. So if you look next time in 770, they don't use it in ordinary days. They use it only on special days. And on these special days, they'll use either the big one or the small one. They don't always use two, they usually use one. But that's called, when it takes a long time for the Torah to reach the reading, that's because everyone, it's Moshiach Sefer Torah, everybody wants to kiss it more, so there's pushing. But these are the two Torahs. So that's Sefer Torah Shel Mashiach. The Friedrich Rebbe wrote it, he never finished it. For whatever reason, I'll get to in a second, he didn't finish it. 1970, 20 years later, the Rebbe said, now is the time to finish it. And on 1970 was the day before Yud Shvat, the passing of the Friedrich Rebbe, and the Rebbe finished Mashiach Sefer Torah. And it's another discussion, what happened, how it happened. We have to continue. Yes, Vicky.
So why the Sefer Torah Shel Mashiach is in 770 and not like in the Gospel where Mashiach will be?
Because it was given to us to greet him when he comes.
Oh, cue that from Quran first.
Where do you think he's going to come? Of course.
Okay.
He's coming to 770 first.
Okay. I didn't know that.
He has to come. That's what the Sefer Torah is. 53. What does Achris Hayom mean? Achris Hayom. Also a term that's found in Tanakh, in all the books of the prophets. It literally means the end of days. What do the end of days mean? Not Chas Shalom, the world will be destroyed. The end of days means the end of Golus. 54, Bayoim Hahu. What does that mean?
On this day, then will be one.
Also an expression, that day. In other words, there are many places in the books of prophets that it uses this term, that day, the end of day, on the day, words like that. And that means also the times of Mashiach. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Yeah.
That Achis Hayom, like, you know, people say, like, the Apocalypse, like, stuff like, when Mashiach comes, like, it will be eternal, or no?
Yes.
Like, it will never end.
Yeah.
The world is not going to end.
The last two things is 55 and 56, the Ita and Achishena. Mazeb.
It's time.
Ita means in its time, and Achishena means Lachish in Tilim and Tanakh means to hasten, to make it happen faster. So the Gemara asks, in one place it says, reference to Mashiach, Be'ita, he'll come in a time, there's a designated time for Mashiach to come. That's called a kates, a time that's designated for Mashiach to come. Achishana means I will hasten the coming, which means sooner than the time, quicker than the time. So the Gemara says both are true. It depends. If we merit, Mashiach will come sooner. If not, then it'll come in a designated time. I remember I called my credit card company. I needed points for a plane ticket. And they said it costs so much money to redeem your points for a ticket. And then he said, but if you want early redemption, it costs a little bit more. I said, yeah, I want early redemption. So that's the difference. B'ita in its time, and Achashana means early redemption. All the things the Rebbe tells us to do, like giving extra tzedakah, learning about Mashiach, all this is to hasten. Hasten means to make it happen sooner. Of course, Mashiach is coming, and even the fact that it's happening soon, we know, but we want it to be sooner than soon. Even if it comes 1 day earlier, 1 hour earlier, 1 moment earlier, would be a moment in millions of people in the world suffering, and the Shekhinah suffering from being in Golus. So therefore, we need to be 1 day earlier. I always tell the story with Rabbi Pape that he was once speaking to children in 770. It was a rally, and he said to the children, if Eliyahu Hanavi would come today and he'll say Mashiach is coming in 3 days, what do you think would happen? What would people do? And the kids answered, they would sing, they would dance, they would be jumping up and down. And then he said, and there'll be one person that wouldn't be so happy. Who is that?
The Rebbe.
So no one knew the answer. So he said, the Rebbe. I said, why? Because why wait 3 days? Why not today? Right. So basically, everything we're doing is to hasten the coming of Mashiach. So now we're coming to one of the things that hasten the coming of Mashiach. Okay, we finished with this sheet. Here you have, there probably are more, but what you have here are the basic terminology that's used in reference to Mashiach. Hopefully, it'll come to good use. Okay, we gave out the sheet about Simcha. That one of the things that hastens Mashiach's coming is Simcha, and now we're learning that Sicha.
Rabbi Majeski,
Yes.
on the place where the third temple is supposed to be rebuilt,
Right.
there is now like
A musk.
yeah,
A one?
how much?
Like the golden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is, believe it or not, that the Arabs are going to say, listen, when the time comes, yeah, they're going to say Shabbat Shalom, and they're going to say, I know this is your place, you have it. Yeah. I don't know if you remember.
And I think that means the sheep and the wolf.
That's what it means. Yeah, the nations of the world, right. There's a video, anyone wants it, I'll find it, I'll send it to you. But there's a video of someone telling a story that he was in Cincinnati. I think I told the story in class. And he went to a gas station. And the owner of the gas station said to this person, are you Jewish? And started to talk to him about Shabbos, about other things. And he was like shocked. And, I know what happened, that this person started to talk to him in Arabic. It was in Arabic. And the end, he says to him that he's a Palestinian. And then he says, I love the Jewish people. I'll do everything for the Jewish people. And then he tells him a story, how he had a certain job. And then when the Palestinians started fighting because he lost his job, he used to work for a Jew. And the Jew, didn't pay him any money because there was a war, he had to run. He said, after the war, one day this Jew comes to his town and is looking for him. What is he looking for? He wants to pay him the money that he owes him from the work. He says, my people, they destroyed my house, they destroyed my life, they destroyed my everything. And the Jew, they helped me. So time that we'll see this on a larger scale.
I think I told here, like last year I shared a English class in Chicago. And I remember it was like a Arabic guy And I remember I was like, I'm going to stay like in his face and chew, like, so I marked in my, and he was like, after the class, hi, so just let you know, I love shoes, I work for a shoe. And at the end of the semester, we were very close, and he was like, you're like my little sister, so.
Suspicious.
No, like, if you need anything, I will protect you, and I'm like, very.
So we're talking about, I have a son who lives in Cincinnati. I went to visit him, and then I'm going home, and he sees that the security guard stopped me and is talking to me. He can't go because they don't let him through, but he's watching from the distance. He's getting all worried what's going on. And then he saw that he's smiling. Okay, it looks like there's nothing terrible happening. What did the security guard tell me? He said almost the same words. He said, I love the Jews.
Yeah.
They're the people of the Bible. They're God's chosen people. And I'm ready to give my life for the Jews.
Wow.
Yeah. These were his words. And these were his words. And this wasn't the person who was like drunk. He was a security guard working there. Right?
Yeah, also in Argentina, workers told my dad, like, I respect you so much, like, I know you have the truth. And
So what you're seeing now on a small scale, here, there, you in the classroom, your father's work, or what I saw, this one saw, when Mashiach comes, we'll see this on a much larger scale. Yeah.
For example, on Shavuos, when we had in Julia with the Ten Commandments, why like Rebbe, or it's not like something to Rebbe, but why nobody added like that we are waiting one of the commandments, that we are waiting of the coming of Mashiach? They're not saying.
What?
We should like.
It should be one of the commandments.
Yes.
It is.
Which one?
Who taught you how to read? You have to read, if you read good, you'll see. No, actually, one of the first classes this year, we had a class on this, and it brought down from one of the commentators on Torah that say that believe in Mashiach is part of the first commandment. Why?
When you believe in Hashem, when you believe in Mashiach.
Right. In other words, if a person doesn't believe in Mashiach, what does it mean? I don't believe that this world could change. I don't believe that things will get better. I believe that this is the way it's supposed to be. In essence, if a person says that, that means they don't believe that Hashem is running the world. Why? Because the way the world is running now, that doesn't make sense. If it's nature, it makes sense. But if Hashem is running it, and you believe that Hashem is good and kind and loving, nothing makes sense. So if you understand that whatever is happening now is just a means to an end, it's just a process that's going to bring us to a time where everybody will be happy, there'll be no more tears, there'll be no more pain, there'll be no more sorrow, so just goodness and happiness, that makes sense. But if a person says, I don't believe that's ever going to happen, in a sense, they're really lacking belief in Hashem.
But for example, now that you say that we are going to do something related to Sivan, last day of Pesach, I remember I was in 770. Like, it's hard to me because I didn't grow up believing in Mashiach.
Right.
So, for example, I see the guys, like the little boys in the bike, do the music, Mashiach flag, I see like, still like nice. But I remember last day of Pesach, I was in 770. And in that moment, I don't know, I felt something that I never felt it before, and I couldn't feel it again. I was like so excited, like I feel like so emotional, and looking outside, like of the door.
Maybe it's gonna happen now.
And I was like, I was so happy, but
You know what happened?
well,
Your spark of Mashiach came up. That's what happened. We have to make it happen more often.
yeah, because it's hard to keep it like high.
Yeah, you're not always on that frame of mind, but when there's some kind of upbringing and it's a Yom Tov, it's a Chag, it's a special time and everybody's together. And it's also because everybody's together, that's why the Rebbe always encourages hakels and gathering. We're stronger when we're together. But it's true, we don't always feel that way. But we're very fortunate if we feel that way at least once, then I know it's in there in potential, and I have to just find a way to bring it out.
I think that it's very helpful to speak with Mrs. Spitzer because she's the Moshiach inspiration. Like I said to her, have a good week. And And she was like, have a good Moshiach.
Yeah, she's leaving already.
Yep. Okay, now we'll do the Sikha. There's no time left,
Do
okay.
you have any extra copies of the simple one?
I have one copy, yep, one extra copy.
Thank you so much.
And this is this it? Yeah. No, this is it. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, the good news is that you have a copy. The other news is that we have no time to learn.
Maybe
This
just one.
clock's a little bit slow. What?
Maybe just one little thing.
Yeah, you should leave the simcha. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. And hopefully the next time we have this class, it'll be in Yerushalayim with Moshiach. And then what Sarah was failing, she'll fail it all the time.
Меня зовут Яна.
Yeah, your final?
Ой, это Rabbi Majeski. Oh, hello, subscribers. Так я заканчиваю.